Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by husky, hairy, huggable homos who love film to discuss movies and dish a little bit of film news. With me, as usual, are my fantastic cohorts, co-hosts, friends, partners in crime, whatever you want to call them. Jim Pugliafico is here. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And Will Lindis is with us as well. Welcome, Will.
Hey, welcome to Earth, movie fans.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
Or what's left of it.
We're starting in already.
Oh, yeah, how can we not? How can we not drop...
Jump on the school bus with us. Let's go.
Oh, man.
Let's not.
If you get started too early, someone's going to, upload a virus and give us, a digital cold, and it's going to be bad for everyone.
That would be a very bad thing.
Oops. What's oops?
Oh, God.
Oh, goodness. So we are going to be reviewing Independence Day Resurgence on the Movie Bears podcast this week. If you were listening live, welcome. Glad to have you. We would love to know your thoughts on the film. If you've already seen it, if you have not seen the movie, fret not. We'll give you our advice on whether we think you should see it before we give you clear and present danger spoiler warnings before we rip away your virginal innocence when it comes to, an Independence Day movie. But before we get to that, we do have a couple of housekeeping items real quick. Guys, the premiere of Bear City 3 happened this last weekend in San Francisco during Pride. Yeah, so congratulations to Doug Langway and all of the folks associated with Bear City 3. We heard from a couple of listeners that they saw our scene in the movie.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And I'm like, I have no, I knew what they were talking about, but I wasn't, we haven't seen it yet, so can't really comment on.
Yeah, we saw the raw footage. We haven't seen the final, like how we were edited together. So,
we don't know what form that thing ended up in. I'm sure it's great, but.
Oh, yeah.
Well, either way, it's still exciting. So, guys, we made our feature film debut. Congratulations, Movie Bears Podcast.
Hey, congratulations, guys.
Oh, and I did see our friend, Bill Zanowitz from the Comic Book Bears podcast in the trailer. I don't know if it was a trailer, but it was a promo piece.
Yeah, I saw him in that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I cannot wait to see Bear City 3. A lot of fun cameos in that film. I'm glad we got a chance to be one of them. But it was kind of crazy because people are just reaching out. They're like, "Oh my God, we just saw you on the big screen," and I was like, "I'm jealous. I wish I was there to see it too."
Yeah.
But good stuff. Congratulations, Bear City 3 folks. When is it going to come our way?
I don't know. Maybe it's time to start pestering Mr. Langway for an appearance. What do you think?
Maybe. I think
you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I think so. I'll reach out. We'll see.
We'll get it right from the bear's mouth himself.
Oh, goodness. All right. So, anything else housekeeping-wise? Any holdovers?
Housekeeping?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good for some of our major topics.
Mm-hmm. Got some films coming up to talk about.
Yeah.
So if all the housekeeping is done, in a sense, I could say
you're supposed to ask me
is clean.
You're supposed to ask us what do you want from us? And what do we say in return? Die.
Is that what we want?
Yeah.
I think that's how I felt coming out of Independence Day Resurgence, but we'll get to that. Before we do, though, we do have a little bit of movie news. How do you like that quick segue I did? Not even a warning to you guys. I'm like, let's just do it. Control, Brad. Here we go.
That's what we need to get to the next segment. Let's do this thing. Move it along. These buildings are not going to blow themselves up.
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
I'm channeling my inner authoritative daddy, guys. That's what it is. Been on
The inner daddy.
The inner daddy. I've been on Daddy Hunt thanks to our friends at Daddy Hunt when we had them on to talk about Daddy Hunt the cereal. And it's funny, I've gotten messages from like 8 people who are like, "Hey, Daddy, I want you to like control me," and I'm like, "Whoa, this is weird. This is not what I signed up for." Actually, you know, I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh my!
What did you expect you were gonna get?
Well, I mean, I'm mid-30s. I don't know that I've totally embraced the whole like daddy thing.
Brad thought he was going to be the hunter, not the hunted.
Right.
You're in that sweet spot now. You could play either side and
really,
you know, have twice the success. Yeah.
I'm like daddy son versatile or something.
The daddyverse.
Yeah.
The daddyverse.
You can hunt while being hunted. Like you're right in the middle. You're not the apex predator. You're kind of right in the middle of the food chain.
Oh goodness.
You could have somebody telling you what to do.
While I tell them someone else what to do.
He could be telling you what to tell the other, you know, the lower guy what to do.
That sounds
is that
like
a thing?
That sounds like work, actually. I do that every day.
Wait. So it sounds like what we're telling Brad is you need to get a job as in sexual middle management. This doesn't seem like something I'd want to do.
Sexual middle management, right.
Sometimes it is fun to manage the middle.
You get all the blame and none of the rewards.
Oh my God. This is taking a weird bend. So let's bring it back on track and do some movie news. Hey, I wanted to talk about the new Star Trek trailer that dropped. Will, you hadn't seen it when I was messaging about it earlier. Did you get a chance to watch it between now and then?
I did, absolutely.
Okay, and Jim, I know you saw it. So I gotta tell you, I've been trying to get myself out of this mindset of like Fast and Furious Star Trek because I'm like, you know what? The second trailer was much more Star Trek-y, less like fucking, excuse my language, pop songs and fast ships. It was, you know, a little more Star Trek. So I'm like, hey, maybe this will be cool. Saw the new trailer, and it's fucking set to a Rihanna song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little weird for me, guys, because it's got some of the spacey stuff in it. It's got some of the heavy, like, I joined Starfleet to, like, make my dad proud, or did it to prove my... And it's all like Rihanna in the background going like, oh, I'm a sexy woman. And, like, it's just this weird contrast of, like, I don't even know. Like,
styles.
What is this trailer supposed to be, guys?
Oh, my God. I think those are exactly the lyrics, right? No, I guess, like, for me... I don't think I hated this trailer as much as you guys did. I still didn't like it. I actually liked this trailer better than the first one that came out because the first one just felt like it was all like big dumb explosions, and this one it felt like I think the first half of the trailer actually had some more just like kind of music playing behind it before the vocals started in. And so you got a lot more of close-ups on people's faces and like kind of like showing some of the emotional stuff or whatever that's going to happen. Still wasn't great. Like I wasn't excited by it, but I liked it better than the first trailer. I liked it dramatically less than the second trailer, if that makes sense.
How about you, Jim?
Man, I started watching it because I'm excited for the movie to come out. I loved the last trailer, and I got about halfway through it, and I couldn't finish watching for 2 reasons. Number one, the song just isn't it's not my thing at all. The music that Rihanna, or this particular song at least, and it seemed like the same stuff that we had seen in the other trailers. It didn't really seem much different than what we had already seen, right? Would you agree with that, Brad? Maybe they saved some new stuff at the end. I don't know, but
there is some stuff we haven't explicitly seen. Like there's a shot, and spoilers for the trailer if you haven't seen it. There's a shot of like the saucer section of the Enterprise like crashing, through the atmosphere and into the ground, and I think we see a little more of like the aliens, and we see more of this mysterious ship that they apparently like find, which looks a lot like the "It's been a long road" Enterprise from Stupid Entercraft.
It seemed more like a music video. It seemed more to serve the music than to serve the movie.
It did.
It was kind of weird. I do have a few things to say though. I hit a wall. I never felt so low, like my waterfall. My tears dropped to the floor. the floor. They left a swimming pool of salted crimes. Crimes. Oh, what could I do to change your mind? Nothing. There you go. There's the first verse to the song. I guess it's called Sledgehammer by Rihanna. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't care for it as a trailer. Is this a thing now? Like setting these trailers?
Yeah. The Guardians of the Galaxy kind of made this like. I mean, we've always had, or not always, but we've often had like weird mishmash trailers, like where it takes like a song
true.
that's like sped up or slowed down. But we are seeing it a lot more, and I do feel that Guardians of the Galaxy was the kickoff for that. That trailer got so much buzz. We're seeing that now with other things. Think about like the Suicide Squad trailer, which goes from the "Don't Tell Me What to Say" song to Ballroom Blitz. Like it does two of them in the same trailer.
True.
And so I think so they're doing the same thing here. That's part of it. I don't mind the song. I like Rihanna. I think she's a great artist. I don't know if I like pop music set against my Star Trek. And I say that as someone who's not a Trekkie. Like this isn't my wheelhouse. I don't know if I have as much of a vote as other people, but I like my Star Trek with more just like orchestral and kind of like grand epic sounding music behind it. I don't know.
Most of the ones I've liked have been to songs that are readily recognizable. You just mentioned a couple that are in the trailer for Suicide Squad.
Right.
Those are instantly recognizable songs, even if they're covers or newer versions. I mean, I go all the way back to the Social Media movie. What was the name of it? The Social Network.
Right.
Where they did that. I'm a creep to the choral group singing. That was cool. But when you got this music that is totally unrecognizable, at least to me. I don't know how long the song's been around. I think it's a brand new one, right?
Yeah, it's a brand new song.
So that says to me you're trying to sell the song as much as you are the movie. And I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it doesn't hold any. I don't know. I like seeing kind of the movie trailer set against familiar songs because they set up a mood. And with a new song, I don't know what mood the song is yet, so it doesn't really give the trailer any kind of grounding for me.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, I don't have a problem with it new versus old in terms of like of that, because I think that like I got the mood from this song. Like I was able to kind of get like what mood they were trying to get across. They were trying to get across that like, this is a movie that's going to be about, or at least based on what this trailer is telling us, this is a movie that's supposed to be about the connections between them and kind of the fractures that they're going to be dealing with, all of the stresses, all of those types of things. And the song kind of had this like melancholy feel to it. I didn't have a problem with that, but what I do have a problem with, for me, is it feels a little weird set against like glossy sci-fi. Like, that's I don't care what song they could have chosen here. I don't think that it's the right move for Star Trek. Put the same movie same song in any other trailer, perfectly fine. But I think Star Trek could have gone a different route.
Right, and here's an example of that. So, like, the new Battlestar Galactica, for instance, and I guess it's not so new anymore. It's been off the air for several years, but very dark, sort of gritty show. Will, did you watch that one at all?
I did, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, for instance, there was a version of All Along the Watchtower that they had in an episode to a very emotional sequence, but it's like this sort of dark, melancholy version of that song. And, like, even though it's like a modern-day song set to a sci-fi series, it sort of tonally matches, I guess, sort of the look and feel.
What's the song? What was the song? Do you
All Along
the Watchtower.
That's a modern-day song?
Well, it's done by a modern-day artist who was popular.
It's a cover, right? But it's a familiar song.
Right.
Battlestar Galactica set like not modern times. So I think what Brad's saying is like it's a modern in that like it's within the last few years, and Battlestar Galactica is like futuristic sci-fi.
Gotcha.
Right. So anyway, it's just train of thought totally derailed. It's just tonally very different. You know what I mean? So just trying to, I don't know. You look at sort of the glossy sci-fi of Star Trek. Yes, apparently the ship is crashing. Yes, apparently there's this evil villain on the surface of the planet or whatever. But it just, I don't know. It doesn't really go together very well. And it's got me a little afraid too of this whole like Justin Lin thing all over again. his sensibilities all over Star Trek. I don't know.
Do you think it's a way to maybe hook in new fans? Really? I mean, with Star Trek people are going to go see this movie anyway. Period. Right? No matter what song they put on top of it. Do you think it's? I mean, they market these things for a reason, and they put these songs in there for a reason. I'm trying to figure that one out.
I don't think that a Rihanna song is going to get someone who doesn't want to, go to a Star Trek movie in the past to suddenly go.
I can see where they're coming from. I mean, I think the problem is, like, whatever song they chose, I don't think the problem is the Rihanna song. I think the problem is that the entire package they put together wasn't very appetizing. It didn't really hook us. I get what they're going for. I think there was some concern after Into Darkness. I think they wanted to perform a little better than it did. I think they wanted it to be more of a critical hit than it did. And I think that coming into this new one with the new director, they want to sort of say, hey guys, if you were one of the people that kind of checked out after the last two and said, I'm not going to try again, we're doing things a little bit different here. I think that's what they're going for. And that's fine. That's a fine way to market something, to kind of like plant your flag and say, this is the new guy and this is what it's going to look like. The problem is that it just wasn't edited very well together. Again, I don't think that's the fault of the song. It wasn't the fault of the song in the first trailer either. And those were two completely different styles. The problem are, I think, to me, the images that accompanied the song.
I don't know. The movie's out in like a month, right? So less than a month. 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks.
So this does not bolster your confidence. Is that what I'm hearing?
It does not. It does not. I was feeling pretty good after trailer 2, and now all over again. I'm just like, ugh. I don't know. Maybe we'll see the movie, and I'll be like, guys, that was the best fucking Star
Trek love Rihanna. Oh my god!
I just downloaded all of Rihanna's entire discography, even though that song probably isn't even in the movie. It's just a marketing song. Whatever, right. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see in a month if it's goodness or badness. But Jim, I know you have something sort of related, but can we circle back in a little bit? Is that cool?
Yeah, go.
All right. So Will, why don't you go with yours? Why don't you geek it up a little further?
Yeah, totally. I think this is going to be a very thematic news segment. We just talked about a Star Trek trailer. Let's talk about some Star Wars news.
Anything with Star, we're good.
Yeah, anything with Star. It's like space. Like that's our wheelhouse tonight. And going in with our main review too. Holy shit, this is a theme episode, and we didn't plan it that way. There was some news that came out this week that so we've got Star Wars Rogue One, which is the new movie that's supposed to come out, I think, December of this year. The new Star Wars movie. It's coming out. And the story is set 19 years after Revenge of the Sith, which is the third prequel movie, but before A New Hope. So kind of right in between those two trilogies. And the news was announced that James Earl Jones is actually coming back to voice his very iconic role, Darth Vader. Now, what we've heard, what they've said, is like it's not supposed to be like a really big role. This is kind of when he's in a very transitionary role. He's not the super evil dude, but he's not the same guy that we saw back in Revenge of the Sith. So it's in between things. They said that the executive producer in an interview with Entertainment Weekly said, look, he's going to be in the movie sparingly, but at key strategic moments, he's going to loom large. And I think that's interesting for me. I loved the last Star Wars movie because it felt like it so closely married the kind of the new stuff that was coming up, as well as like some of the classic stuff that we loved about the original trilogy. It was a perfect blend of old and new, and getting James Earl Jones back for this is another example of just kind of that love and that care. I think the fans of the original trilogy are going to be really happy to hear that. But I'm super excited about that. How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of a cherry on the cake for me. I was already excited for the movie anyway. We talked about the news about the reshoots and all that stuff and what that possibly meant. And I didn't mean to infer that was dampening my excitement for the movie, because it's not. Because I'm still super excited. I love the trailer. We actually got to see it on the big screen again this weekend in front of Independence Day Resurgence, so that was a kind of a bonus, and that got me re-energized again. But yeah, to hear that James Earl Jones is going to come back and make it into the movie is a cherry on the cake for us, right? And I assume that means Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty safe bet because this movie, squarely takes place when he's still alive and awesome.
Right. So now, did they say that he was just added, or he's always been in there?
I don't think they really said. I think they just sort of announced that. So
I wonder if it's tied to that reshoot thing.
Yeah, which was it's the reshoot thing.
Yeah.
The internet's going crazy over nothing.
We have to add more Darth Vader in this movie. But yeah, I'm super excited, Will, as well. Yep, definitely.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped too. I mean, the big hanging question mark for me has been, are they really going to do a film set during this time period and have it all be like, bit characters that we really, they're not like major players. I mean, we have Mon Mothma, right? She's the head of the rebellion or whatever, but like, we don't really have like a Han or a Leia or a Luke. So I'm kind of like, where is like the gravity well that's gonna like really get people excited and draw them in? Obviously, it's a Star Wars movie. Yes, we're excited about that, but I think having Darth Vader in the film, a lot of people are gonna be like face melting. Oh my God, Darth Vader! And like want to see this movie even more. I'm one of them, so I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too, and I don't know where this falls in spoiler territory, so. I will back very cautiously away from anything specific here, but they've also announced what character Forrest Whitaker is playing, and it's actually a character from the lore, but I won't go into specifics on that because I don't know how widely that's. I heard that news, but I don't know if that's going to be exciting. But he's an existing character, and people that I know that are really into the Star Wars lore have been like. Totally hardcore geeking out over that. I'm less so into that world, and so I wasn't as invested in that character. But I do know that they're at least doing something with his character.
Yeah, I love that guy. I mean, obviously he's an Oscar winner, right? So the guy has the chops. I've always loved what he's done ever since Crying Game. I loved him in that movie. So. Yeah, super excited. We got to wait till Christmas, right? Is that it? I don't know. When is it coming out?
Yeah, December. So it's a ways off.
But that's not bad, because, like, think about December. Well, and December is our, like, that's when we hit our anniversary, right? And that's, like, historically we've had, like, Hobbits to talk about. Now we've got Star Wars movies to talk about in December, guys.
I'm really fine with this.
I feel like we've traded it up.
Oh, it's like, hey, 1993, old beat-up Camaro. I love driving you for a long time, but you know what? It's time for a 2016.
Yeah, we'll take it. And especially as excited as we were after the last Star Wars movie, like, sign me up. Like, sign me up for the next 8. Like, the last one was so good, you've bought me some goodwill for a few movies.
Some goodwill?
Oh, that's the only type there is.
I joked about it a little bit, but I just wonder if this is, part of the studio wanting to have more of a tie-in to the existing movies, the ones that everybody knows, for marketing value. Because as great as I thought this last trailer was, like, I'm going to watch this movie no matter who it's got in it. If I don't recognize any of the characters, I love that world, I love that universe, and I want to be back there and see what happened, before the, between the prequel movies and A New Hope. I want to, at the dawn of, before the dawn of Luke and Leia. So, but I just got to wonder if I'm a studio guy and I'm looking and I watch the rough cut of the movie and I say, well, who's in this movie? Like, who are these characters? And I can totally see some suit. Yeah, we gotta add somebody back in here. Let's go get James Earl Jones or whatever. But can't add Luke in there because he's old now, right?
Well, no, he would have been. Yeah, but also he wouldn't have fit. Like, the storyline takes place before Luke becomes.
No, but I mean, even his voice, right? But something like Vader. He's not. He's masked. It's a perfect drop-in. you know.
Right.
And in the time frame of where this movie takes place, I mean, this is the movie about them trying to steal the plans for the Death Star, like basically the stuff that led into A New Hope. So that's a perfect place. Like, I think Darth Vader fits in that role. Like, I think a lot of characters, like, you could probably go like, oh, let's go see what's happening over in Bespin, see what's happening with Lando. Like, you could make some like really like stretch the imagination detours, but I think Vader kind of fits pretty comfortably in that story without like them having to like do a bunch of gymnastics to fit him in.
Well, we'll see in December if it is beneficial or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I'm thinking it's going to be pretty awesome.
Well, we'll see a couple things. We'll see if the movie's any good, first of all, and then if it is or isn't, we'll see if having James Earl Jones had any bearing on that.
Indeed. All right.
Well,
all right, Jim. Well, the circle back is here.
Yes. So we talked a little about Star Trek already, and while I was watching the trailer, or trying to watch the new trailer for the Star Trek movie, I stumbled across this other Star Trek story that had been kind of bubbling around, and maybe you guys have heard more of it than I have, but this was a total learning experience for me. I guess there was this fan-made film called Axanar that was a Star Trek based fan film that was made, and these guys raised like $1 million, and they went out and made this. Sounds like, I haven't seen the movie, but it sounds like a pretty high-quality fan-made film, and they promptly got sued by CBS and Paramount for copyright infringement, and I think that legal battle is still going on. And out of that came the publishing of some, like, there's actually a set of rules that CBS Paramount has put out, like 10 rules listed on a sheet of paper that say, if you're going to make a fan-made film, anything to do with our property, Star Trek, you better follow these 10 rules. Have you guys heard about this story about Axanar or any of that stuff?
I'm familiar with Axanar. I've not seen the whole thing. When we were at the Star Trek convention a couple of years ago, that was the thing. Actually, they had some of the folks, I think, from that project who were there in like blue skin Andorian costumes with their like phasers, and they were like handing out little cards with like the address of their YouTube channel or website where you could like go and check it out. But for a long time, Paramount has been like, whatever, we don't care, Star Trek apparently sucks, do your own thing, we don't give a shit. And now, all of a sudden, of course, I think with the popularity of the movies and a new TV show, that's the big one, I think. Now, all of a sudden, Paramount gives a shit again.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, and a lot of people who argue about this hard line that the studio has taken, has said, hey, some of these fan-made films have kept the fan base alive, kept it percolating, so that these new movies and properties can be more successful. You're not bringing them back to the fold; you're just giving them some new content, and these fan-made films are a great way for the audience and the fans to kind of keep Star Trek at the forefront of their collective minds, and I kind of agree with that. But I'm not gonna read through all 10 rules. I'm just gonna kind of just run down some of them. Some of them are kind of funny. The fan production must be less than 15 minutes for a single story, or no more than 2 segments, episodes or parts not to exceed 30 minutes total. No additional seasons, episodes, parts, prequels, or remakes. The title of the fan production or any parts cannot include the name Star Trek. However, the title must contain a subtitle with the phrase, a Star Trek fan production, in plain typeface, which I thought was kind of odd. Must be original. They can't use clips. If the production uses any commercially available Star Trek uniforms, accessories, toys, props, these must be official merchandise and not bootleg items or imitations such as commercially available products. No, or imitations of such commercially available products. Just kind of crazy stuff. You got to use amateurs. Nobody can be paid to star in the movie. Just a lot. Oh, must be family friendly and suitable for presentation. Videos must not include profanity, nudity, obscenity, pornography, drug use, tobacco use, and a whole list of stuff. So they're really like have this set of rules, and so anybody out there who's thinking of making their own Star Trek fan, and we have friends that have done that in the past, But if you're thinking of doing that going forward, you better take a look at these rules and decide if you really want to go forward with it, with your project or not. Otherwise, you may end up getting sued by this giant conglomerate called CBS Paramount. And I didn't know if you had heard about any of this stuff going on, but I guess it's a big deal in the Star Trek world.
Yeah, and it's also kind of a not only in the Star Trek world, but it also is a big deal kind of from a fan film / Kickstarter / crowdsourcing perspective, because this is a very, very interesting story in that they were originally going to be sued, and then after the Axonar, after they raised like something over $1 million through Kickstarter, after the directors then stepped in, Abrams and I think Lynn too. Stepped in and were like, hey, we shouldn't do this. They backed off from Axonar, but as a result, the judges were like, yeah, you could have sued for this. Like they basically laid it out there that CBS Paramount was in the right. I don't know if this is the popular opinion. I don't have a huge problem with this. I think it's up to companies are going to do different ways to protect their brands, and I think that with a lot of other companies, they could have very easily just drawn a hard line in the sand and said, nope, we're not going to allow these things at all. And instead, they've created something to where people can still create without infringing on the brand while borrowing from the brand properties. Now, I don't know if all 10 of the individual guidelines are perfectly fair. The one about the merchandise was a little weird just because it's like, well, what if someone makes a better Star Trek costume than merchandise? That's a little weird. I don't know if 100% on this, but I think that there's some very interesting territory here, and I think really this comes from the idea of I think more than anything else, more than anywhere else, and it came from the idea that this group raised over $1 million on Kickstarter. I've seen, I watched a couple weeks ago. I think I talked about it. I don't know if I talked about it here on the show. I think I did. I went to a screening of a fan film that was made off of the Storm character, and Marvel and Fox had nothing to do with that. But it was all done through Kickstarter. This is something that people are being able to raise a large amount of funds for. In ways that they weren't able to before, and so it does create kind of a need to figure out, well, how do we handle these? What's our guideline? What's our process? So do I know that I think all of the guidelines are perfect? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's something that they at least kind of they're offering some sort of hey, here's how you can still work within this framework. That's just me.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure which side I fall on. Obviously, the properties need to be protected from stuff that could obviously damage them. But on the other hand, you don't want to stifle the creativity too much either. You could be cutting, if you're the studio imposing these restrictions. You could be hurting yourself too. There could be some fan films that bring more fans to the film, to the real product, to the real products of your studio. So. Yeah, I don't know where I fall on this. I just wonder if other studios like Lucasfilms or, the Marvel, Sony, whatever, have the same type of really specific, stringent rules against fan-made films and somebody out there making, Batman and Robin's, bad day or whatever. I don't know if they have the same kind of rules in place or this is just specific to this case.
I don't know. There was a time when Star Wars fan films were totally the rage. We're talking probably, I don't know. I was still in college at this point, so it was probably around 2000. The fan films were just out there like crazy. In fact, the fan films were the whole reason that I took a class on how to do special effects in Photoshop, and that's how I learned to kind of replicate the lightsaber effects in Photoshop. Was because I wanted to do a Star Wars fan film at one time. In fact, I roped my college roommate into it for a little while, and it's really embarrassing to think back on that time now. But yeah, I don't know that I've ever heard of George Lucas going after fan movie people to shut them down. I don't know.
But it wouldn't even be Lucas at this point. It would be Disney that has a. They've historically had a reputation for being very litigious about things.
Well, at this point, yes, but I mean,
Yeah.
16 years ago, it wasn't Disney; it was Lucas. So.
Right. But I think that we didn't really have like Kickstarter and crowdsourcing and stuff like that 16 years ago. I think the technology also wasn't necessarily as much there as well for people to create what looked like extremely professional productions, off of their laptop or what have you. And so I think the technology has made it to where like these are things that need to be talked about or at least considered. Disney has like actually kind of backed off a little bit of all of its suits because of Frozen, because they had a lot of like viral, like people were doing so many like parodies and little things like that. Like I'm singing along, but it's changed to this or changed to that. And I think Disney of a few years ago would have been much more Sue happy, but they actually used that to their benefit, and those things helped create a viral sensation that Frozen was. Those damn songs were stuck in our brains like 2 years later, in part due to like YouTube and all of that. So it looks like I'll be interested in seeing kind of how this plays out with Star Wars specifically, but it seems like all of these different companies are going to have to feel their way through this really, really weird territory.
Yeah. And well, you may be right. It may be that the films are the higher budget. When we think of fan films, we think of something thrown together on a shoestring, thrown up on YouTube, and we laugh at it or marvel at it or whatever. But when you're starting to raise millions of dollars in making a movie and you're using the Star Trek name and products, that's a little weird. I mean, that's like almost like another company making a feature film using your ideas and your name and everything else. So in a way, it kind of makes sense.
Well, plus there's, and I know we have a movie to review too, so
I'm sorry.
we should probably switch gears. But I think another part of this too is that a lot of these fan productions, especially with Star Trek, because they're getting some of the actors from the other shows involved. For instance, Star Trek Renegades has Tim Russ, who played Tuvok on Voyager. He has the original Chekhov, involved in this project. So it's one of those things where now you're getting fans coming aboard these projects because of these actors from the series. And so not only do people want to give money because of that, but also it's a standpoint of, is this thing better than what we're doing? Like, are people going to love this new production more than they're, say, going to love the new Star Trek series that we're coming out with on CBS All Access? Like, is this going to interfere with the enjoyment of what we want to do, or make us feel pressured, right, to do something like what's already being done? So I think in a way it's kind of like the Power Rangers thing that came out. Was that last summer or a year and a half ago? With Katie Sackhoff and...
It was either a year or 2 years. It was recently, yeah.
Yeah. But kind of the same thing, right? There was news that a new Power Rangers movie was coming. Then this director did this short, and it was freaking amazing. And they shut that shit down real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So there is a line, and it sounds like some of these fan films are approaching that line, and the studios are building the wall. Yep.
And they're putting ancient spell. Oh, anyway. So... What do you think, guys? Are we ready to review our movie this week?
Yes.
Nope. Can we just do 40 more minutes of movie news instead?
I would be okay with that, but
we might have a few fans that want to hear.
we need to do this thing.
Not fans, but we may have some listeners who might want to hear about this movie.
Because today is the day our listeners celebrate the review of Independence Day.
We cancel the apocalypse. Wait, wrong movie.
Here we go. Our discussion of Independence Day Resurgence. Okay, so Will, why don't you very briefly give us a quick setup of this movie, and if you think it's worth people checking out, and then we'll kind of chime in with our thoughts here in a bit. But what do you think here?
Yeah, okay, so Independence Day Resurgence. Here's the quickie description. This is 20 years after the events of the first Independence movie, both in our time and in the movie storyline. In that 20 years, mankind has evolved their technology in preparation of a future alien attack. We're better, we're stronger, we're more prepared. Unfortunately, the aliens have had all of this time to prepare too, and we're in store for another showdown. Um, this movie is honestly a lot more of the exact same. The thing about the first Independence Day movie was it was loud, it was silly, it was goofy, it was bloated. It was just like explosion porn that relied way too much on like patriotism and like that sweeping orchestral music, self-sacrificial bravery, all of that stuff as a substitute for quality. The first one kind of worked back then, and even though this second movie is almost a carbon copy in terms of like not the story beats, but just kind of the feel, what worked 20 years ago doesn't really work nowadays. Our tastes have evolved. What we look for in films have evolved. So I didn't super enjoy this movie. Way too many characters, and a lot of them were simply there for like their one scene. You know, like you'd have characters who were like you would tease them all throughout just so they could have the one moment of doing something interesting. You cut half the characters out of this movie, you maybe have a much more interesting movie. And the other problem too is that none of the characters were quite as compelling as what we had in the first Independence Day. I mean, for despite the fact that he's made some kind of like shit movies immediately thereafter, Will Smith was really kind of the charismatic heart of the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
he had a story, he had an arc. We were really interested in what was going on with him and with Bill Pullman and Jeff Goldblum. A little bit of like Vivica A. Fox and Mary McDonnell.
Randy Quaid.
Judd Hirsch.
Yeah. So you had like while you had a wide cast there, really you were down to like kind of a core like 6 or 7 that you really focused on, and all of those people had development off of the movie. This movie didn't have that. This movie it felt like twice as many characters with half as much development. They even crammed some characters in just because they were in the first films, and they really should have just not been here at all. If you liked the first movie and you can put all of that shit aside, I think you're going to be okay with this one because it is a lot more of the same. But really, it's just CGI explosion porn with sweeping orchestral music, a terrible script, and characters that I couldn't care about. This is a pass for me. I wish I liked this one more than I did.
All right, so it is a hard pass from Will. Jim, how about you?
Yeah, well, I think we're on the same page with this one. This one, I kept thinking, oh, man, this movie it seems like a movie that really wasn't made for me. I just watched the first one the same day, right? In the morning, I think we watched the first one because I had only seen bits and pieces of it. So I was like, I want to go in fresh. I want to see it. And that one's still pretty tight and enjoyable film. When you watch it, it's not going to be on my favorite movies list as it is with some people, but I can understand how it is. If you kind of connected with that movie 20 years ago when it was out. But went into this one with reasonable expectations, not high expectations, and it just lost me pretty quickly into this movie. I thought the setup at the beginning was pretty good. I like that, they're setting up the weapons. You can see how Earth is preparing for an attack, blah, 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 and you start to get involved with the characters, but at some point it just like especially once the action started, this was like cinematic Somonex for me. Like I was like nodding. It was just dull, and I can't believe at the end of the movie I asked myself, and I probably asked Brad, how can a movie that puts so much action, CGI explosions and dog fight scenes and alien fight scenes on the screen for a lot of its running time. I mean, there's a lot of action in this movie. If you just want that, if you just want mindless action and eat popcorn, and then that does it for you. This movie might be good for you. It wasn't for me. But how can a movie that puts so much action on the screen for all of its running be so boring? I didn't feel anything like you said, Will, for these characters. Even some of the existing characters carried over from the other movie. Judd Hirsch's character didn't need to be in the movie, right?
That was the one where I said there's a character that didn't need to be in here.
Right.
Didn't need
right.
to be in the movie. I don't know if they were just doing him a favor or what they were doing, or just trying to tie to the first movie. There's a few things I did like about this movie, but overall it's a hard pass. I kind of liked that. I was kind of pleasantly surprised, let's put it that way, at the two depictions of gay relationships in here. I was kind of surprised. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool that they did that. I'm not sure they executed it perfectly, but I kind of liked that it at least was in there and it was given some screen time. I did kind of like I'll just say the final battle sequence. I thought it was okay. I thought it looked pretty good. Everything leading up to that, though, I didn't really care about. And we'll talk about that final battle sequence a little bit in the spoilers, of course. But yeah, it's a pass for me, unfortunately. It kind of felt like the way the last Transformers movie felt to me. Like a lot of bang and crash and blah, 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 a lot going on. But in the end, it didn't amount to anything. So pass.
So a pass from Jim as well. I think that I liked this movie better than you guys did. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't know that I'd even say it's a good movie. But if you liked the original Independence Day film, I mean, I think this one's absolutely worth checking out while it's in theaters, when it's on the big screen. It's got some really cool visual stuff going on. I liked a lot of the effects. I like how some of the technology, really looked like it's sort of an organic evolution from tech in the first film. I liked a revisit of some of the characters. It was great to have the Brent Spiner character back. It was nice seeing Bill Pullman again. I love Bill Pullman to death. I think he's really awesome. I think he's probably kind of wasted here a little bit, but I was still glad to see him. But I do think that this movie certainly has a lot of problems. Jim, you mentioned the depiction of gay relationships thing. I think for me that's actually a problem for this film, and maybe we can talk about that more in spoilers. But it was interesting to see it nonetheless, because even though it was problematic, I think it's a weird line to walk in a summer tentpole blockbuster movie for like straight dudes who are bringing their girlfriends to watch Bang Bang Kill the Aliens, like to have gay people like in their straight macho alien movies. So I thought that was interesting, but I did have some issues there. But I think it was kind of fun. It was boring in spots. I did fall asleep. Jim had to wake me up at one point. To be fair, we did go see it at like 10 o'clock, and my bedtime is normally 10 o'clock, so that could have been part of it. But I don't know. I think as a summer popcorn movie goes, it was fine. You don't go into this movie expecting it to be like thrilling, crazy, gripping, most awesome sci-fi, serious drama, compelling characters ever. Unfortunately, I think things that the original movie did well, this one sort of seems like a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. So it's very diluted. So there's some strokes of fun. There's some strokes of imaginative stuff that they've done. We'll talk a little bit about sort of the extraterrestrial setup here, but I don't think it worked as well as it could have. Definitely overbloated, and unfortunately it suffers as a result.
Yeah.
You mentioned strokes. If I had had some strokes during the movie, it would have been a lot more fun.
Oh my God!
Oh my God.
Yeah. I did not have the strokes of fun that you had. Apparently,
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's how Jim gets kicked out of the movie theater.
Jim's like,
strokes of fun.
he's like, isn't it supposed to smell like popcorn in here? Because I smell toast.
That should be our new rating system.
Wait,
How many strokes of... I'll give this movie 5 strokes of fun.
Now, which strokes are we talking about? Because I feel like we're going different strokes here. I guess different strokes for different folks.
What you talking about, Will? Us?
We're just going to start calling him Pee-wee Puliafico.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of the. I think Jim mentioned some of the effects, and I think that there are some really good effects here. There's some boring effects in this. Like there wasn't anything that I saw as a bad effect, but there were some that just kind of felt like, okay, whatever. It's sci-fi special effects on the big screen. I think the Transformers analogy is very fair. Like when you see a bunch of like kind of big, loud, dumb CGI fest explosions. Other movies that do the same thing kind of start to blur together. But there was one scene that I really liked, and it was similar to a scene from the first film that I really liked. Give me the dogfight scenes in this movie and in the first one. Just like the spot where it's like spaceships fighting spaceships flying around. We'll talk about those are in the trailer. That's not anything spoilery, but like any of the dogfight scenes looked neat. They looked really cool. Like I felt like the action was thrilling. Like any time when they're like piloting and flying around, stuff like that. I think that's where the film really takes off. I guess pun intended. When they're doing other things, like I feel like I don't know that Emmerich is really good at directing human relationships and human interactions, but I feel like he can direct a piloting scene fairly well. And so if this movie was just more air battles, maybe that would have saved it. It would have still been kind of dumb and brainless, but it would have been at least good dumb and brainless.
Yeah, I was kind of opposite for that. I liked it when they took the battle back to Earth a little bit, but we'll talk about that too.
So I think this is a good spot for spoilers, guys. I don't know. There's much more mileage we can get out of this without heading into that territory. So I'm just going to call it spoilers, officially fair game. If you don't want to be spoiled on Independence Day Resurgence, now is your chance to hit the eject latch in your fighter plane, fly out of your plane, parachute back to safety. Stalling, giving people time to reach for the controls. Okay, you've had your time. It's happening. So I want to circle back to the gay relationship thing real quick.
Yes.
Because Jim and I had this conversation. Where were we?
We were in a burger.
It was a Burger King in Casa Grande. We're on our way to Phoenix for a pool party, and we stopped for some lunch, and we're talking about the movie that we'd just seen 12 hours before the previous night. And Jim's like, man, the gay relationship in that movie, we should talk about that. And I kind of was taken aback from it. I was like, wait, gay relationship? What? What are you talking about? And Jim's like, well, the guy that, was there when Brent Spiner goes, I'm waking up from my coma of 20 years. They were a couple. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They were a couple?
I got that right away.
I thought he was a coworker or something, to be honest. There were some quips going back and forth through the movie. I mean, they seem to be hanging around each other. And I guess at the end, it is spoilers when the one guy is dying, and he's like, well, who's going to make sure you put your pants on in the morning? It
was touching, I thought.
It was touching, but it felt to me like it was touching, oh, my friend is dying. Not oh my gosh, my partner is dying, and the guy wasn't
my roommate
that I love you, or you know what I mean? It just, I don't know. It didn't strike me as a real, I don't know, obvious gay relationship.
Yeah, you didn't see the lovey-dovey part of the relationship. You just saw the practical aspects of, hey, these guys are together, I think, for more than just lab partners. You know what I mean? I think they probably live together. I think there were some terms of endearment sprinkled in there very lightly. One right at the beginning when he woke up out of the coma, and he said something like honey or dear or something like that to the other guy, and I'm like, wow, I was taken back. As a matter of fact, I looked over to Brad because I think he might have just missed that touch, because I looked over to him and I didn't see the same reaction I had. I'm like, wow, they're going there in this movie, and that's to the movie's credit. Now, granted, Brad, you brought up a point that maybe at the end one of the characters was dying, and they kind of played it off for comedy a little bit. The interaction between them, who's going to put your pants on in the morning, and I forget what else.
He was the thing was supposed to be a sweater.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't go for the emotional tug that they probably could have, but then again, I might have been the only one that was affected by that relationship anyway. The straight guys and their girlfriends probably would have been turned off anyway. But yeah, I did appreciate that they tried to do it. And I know that Roland Emmerich is an openly gay director, filmmaker, and I know that he's taken hits for some of his other movies in the way he's handled gay topics, especially in his Stonewall movie that I think he produced. But I thought it was a very light but sensitive touch in this movie, and it worked for me.
Yeah, for me, I think you're both right in a lot of ways, and here's why. I felt like these characters were there less because they were organic to the script. I mean, obviously the Brent Spiner character was in the first one, so they're going to bring him back over. But the fact that they made him part of a gay relationship and what they did here, it to me kind of felt like Emmerich coming out and saying, hey, remember Stonewall? Remember how you guys kind of didn't like me for Stonewall? See, I can do gay characters. I can do gay characters. And the problem is that he can't. I feel like what he did was he tried to play both sides, and he did so poorly. What I mean by that is, I picked up maybe on their second scene together that there was a relationship. The characters are just so fucking quirky when they're first introduced to each other. Like, oh, this is the Polyphicus Maleficus flower. Like doing all that stuff. That like any of the the endearment between the two is kind of lost in their quirky sensibilities. Like you don't get that. I picked up on it like at the later scene. So by the time when they had their death sequence, I was like, okay, like these are obviously two lovers, and this is obviously what they're going for. But the problem is like I said, they backed away from it. Like I don't feel like they needed to have had them like running out like waving rainbow flags or anything like that. But I feel like what they tried to do with the script was make it as understated as possible so that it didn't offend the straight people. And I think the problem is like, you know what? Fuck it. Write your characters the way you want to write them. I think most of the straight audiences would have been fine with it. The ones that aren't, we're going to have a problem with it no matter what degree you put it in there. So by doing a half measure, all you're doing is you're hurting your character development, and you're hurting what could have been a tearjerker scene and turning it into just like a... Does anyone here remember the name of the character that died?
Nope.
Does anyone here remember any of the character personality traits except for
I don't even remember Spiner's character's name, and he was in 2 movies. So.
I know he liked to knit, apparently.
Yeah, so this was for me a big misstep, because they should have either gone more in for it and developed that relationship, or not done it at all. I think as a result, all they did was they just... I mean, I guess in one way it's like equality. Like, he underdeveloped all of his characters, so maybe he underdeveloped the gay characters too. You know, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I kind of disagree with that in a way, though, because we have other relationships in this movie that are getting screen time.
We have another gay relationship.
We've got poor man's Thor and like his girlfriend, who's the daughter of the president from the first movie, right? And we have other relationships. They get their little lovey moments. They get kisses. They get hand-holding. They get whatever. So I could see if, like, all of the couples in the movie had sort of the same treatment. But to me, it just made it very obvious. Like, if they're supposed to be a gay couple, like, obviously there's not equality there.
And there's the relationship that's supposed to have the most weight, because of all of the different relationships, like the romantic relationships, theirs is the only one that suffers a loss. All of the other losses are mother, father, or friends, but theirs is the only romantic loss. And so, if anything, that's the one that you should develop the most, because you know that you're going to have that scene. Instead, it plays off for just like... I mean, there were some cute lines there at the end, like, who's going to put your pants on? You know, that was actually kind of cute. It would have worked better with more development, but it immediately turned into Brent Spiner like, oh, I'm going to be reckless with a gun, and then I'm never going to reference my dead boyfriend again for the rest of the movie. And that was just felt very, very like, again, it was a half measure, and half measures for me are a problem.
Yeah, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as more... authentic than that. I mean, these are two older guys that had a relationship. They didn't grow up in the age where maybe it's okay, especially in their, to be out and gay. And here they are trying, at the, at times of stress and trouble, they're kind of showing their relationship for each other that maybe they had to keep kind of under the surface for a while. And I don't know. It felt more authentic to me than a cheap half measure. But the other gay relationship, so the other thing was, so he showed this older established gay relationship that these guys had obviously been together for at least 20 years, maybe longer. But then they showed at the other end of the love spectrum kind of this burgeoning gay relationship between Charlie and Jake. Like the googly eyes that Charlie gave Jake when he was like kissing with his girlfriend, and he kept saying, oh, someday you'll have a girlfriend too. And you could see in his eyes like, I don't really want a girlfriend, I want you.
Was that a gay relationship?
No.
I'm kidding. That's the way I read it. That's one way you could look at it. If you go back and watch that movie, Charlie was totally smitten with Jake.
Well,
I
but
think that's
I
a
thought
reach.
he was. I thought he was pining after the Asian chick the whole
Oh
movie.
yeah, he was all
That
about
was his-
Commander Zhang.
yeah,
oh,
his
she's
beard.
weird. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, she was his beard for sure.
I think that I don't know if that
He
one
didn't
counts
want
for
Jake
me.
to reject him as, the gay guy. He wanted to be his buddy.
At the end of that movie, Jake went home and fucked Malik, or Make Them Alone, and Charlie went off on a date with Commander Zhang. I think both of them are getting their own separately. I don't think that's a gay relationship.
I'm kidding. I'm mostly kidding, but there was a little bit of that. He was looking at him with doe eyes half the time.
Maybe it was one of those things where they go on missions a lot together. They're only two people.
They shower together and stuff.
Hopper ship or whatever. Maybe it's like a little two-person alcove shower. Maybe they just fill a need temporarily. I mean, I don't know.
That could be.
I think what it was for me, and I had a big problem with the Charlie character while we're talking characters. Yeah, because he was solely there because they wanted to recreate the Will Smith-Harry Connick Jr. relationship from the first movie.
Oh, yeah.
So that was Jake and Charlie here. And unfortunately, no offense, Travis Tope, who played Charlie Miller, you were a poor man's Harry Connick Jr. And I think that's mostly the script. Like, they didn't really give him much to do. Aside from pining after Commander Zhang. But, yeah, man, like, I felt like this was a lot of retread with the character personality, like the character roles.
Neither one of those characters had the charisma of the original character that they were filling the void of.
Yeah.
Liam Hemsworth, maybe he can act, he's good looking, but the dude's the character they wrote for him was very uninteresting to me.
And the same with what's his name? Jesse T. Usher, who played Dylan, who was Will Smith's son in the first one, and now is sort of he and Jake are like the Jeff Goldblum, Will Smith of this movie. I mean, not exactly, but they're like they're the two like the male leads, like going off and rah kicking ass. And that's another character, the Dylan character. To be the son of Will Smith and then to come in and have what I felt like was like next to zero charisma was a real problem. Like he was such a Brad. I'm going to steal a term from you. He was such a nothing burger for me. Like, and I don't know how much of it is the script. I feel like there were a lot of people that kind of filled that role. I think Maika Monroe is someone that I loved in The Guest. I loved in It Follows, and I think she was fine here. But she also just got a lot of, like, I've got to kind of be sad and face the camera eyes in this. And I feel like she's better than this. I feel like a lot of these actors are probably better than this.
Yeah. I want to talk about the one action scene that I liked, which was the final action scene, which was when they finally got the Queen alien outside of the ship and they're attacking Now, I hated the idea of the kids on the bus. That was
oh my god.
That's the only reason I didn't like that scene. That was a deal killer for me.
I hated that. Those were a whole bunch of characters you could have done without. But it created one of the most visually striking scenes of the movie for me, and that was when the Queen alien was actually kind of chasing the bus, and they were kind of looking at it, like I think through the mirror or the back window, and she's coming closer. That was a cool visual cue for me. Story-wise, I kind of wanted her to catch the bus and like smash the shit out of it.
But
that wasn't going to happen.
Well, you knew that those kids were going to make it through 100%.
Yeah.
Those kids had so much plot armor, even though they had nothing to do with the plot. And that was like, I wanted to like that final action scene, but just because Judd Hirsch drove up with that fucking bus, it like completely like ruined any chance of me enjoying that.
It was. Yeah, I'm like, it would be really cool if they subverted our expectations here, and the bus and everybody on it was totally. We could mourn them. I'm not saying for laughs. I mean, we could mourn them, and it a real moment in the movie, like, oh my fucking god,
Yeah, those kids and my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
How about just like a stray bolt of green shit like hits the bus and like it's vaporized?
Wildfire?
No, not wildfire. The alien energy.
Oh, the fell? The fell.
No, not the fell.
Which green stuff are we talking about?
The green shit from Independence Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Judd Hirsch was the problem for me. He shouldn't have been in this movie.
No.
There are a few things here that, like we talked about, that kind of work, but not enough not enough for me to. Brad, you're the only one that can recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, some of the battle stuff was fun. I enjoyed it. Although I want to touch a little bit on the whole like talking Pokeball thing, whatever it was. Like
the exposition ball.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
Like
the setting up the sequel ball.
Right, like, you know, it was kind of cool at the beginning of the movie when, like, this thing shows up, right? This big ball thing in space, this big craft, and, like, this is the Earth has to flex its muscle, show its might screen. So, they, like, blew it up, obviously. Right? And obviously Jeff Goldblum's like,
can't do that.
Well, I don't know that that's a good idea. I don't know that we should do that, President. And she's like, we're doing it anyway, because look at me. I'm a powerful woman. Fire the lasers! And anyway, so they recover the talking exposition Pokeball, whatever. And, like, apparently there's this other alien race, and they're at war with the first alien race, and the first alien race wants to get their technology and knowledge. And
Brad, I think that's where you fell asleep. I'm surprised you remember that scene.
I do. Because
I swear that scene went on for 10 minutes, where they did nothing but talk to the ball about.
Right.
And describe what was going on.
Right, and like I think I fell asleep and then like woke up and they were still talking about the same shit. You know what I mean? So then it becomes sort of this MacGuffin, right, in the battle where it's like, no, we have to protect the ball. Like we can't let them get the ball. And then like, oh no, the queen, she got the ball. She's got the ball. We need to get the queen back. Let's take down her shields.
This is how I feel when I watch football.
Fair, football's maybe not with that, but yeah,
it's more at stake at least.
Right. So while there was some cool stuff going on with the battles and the dog fights and the technology, I mean visually there was some cool stuff going on. I just feel like they tried to put too much in here. Like if this was just, hey, guess what? The aliens are back and they're gonna fuck some shit up. Like okay. But now it's like, no, we've got to set up a whole franchise. Let's set up this other alien race. It ends up diluting the whole thing, and it makes it way too cumbersome, I feel.
Yeah, and you hit on the exact problem with it. I think conceptually it's kind of a neat idea. A third player in this war, you know, us versus the aliens, and this other third party. I think I kind of like the idea of like, oh, they've shucked off organics and they're completely techno-organic, you know, cool, that they have this, like, rebel planet. Like, all of that is neat stuff. Like, that is really cool, fertile sci-fi territory. But they explained it by just the ball telling us everything about it. And I think a deft filmmaker could have shown us some of that instead of told us some of that, and left us to kind of go like, oh, what was on the sphere's world? Like, is that something that we'll see later maybe on? I don't know. That'd be cool. But instead, it's like, we know exactly where it's going from here. There is no guesswork left. We know exactly what story beats are ahead of us. If there's a sequel, I guess there's going to be a sequel. I mean, it feels like they're obviously...
Did we even have to know that much? We didn't even have
I mean, you know, if you want to set up a franchise, okay, that's fine. Let's do it. But, like, let's have a little show, don't tell. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It could have been so easy. Like, if you want to make the Brent Spiner character, like your super awesome, crazy scientist character, have him, like, mentally link up with the sphere, and maybe he sees visions of where they come from, you know.
I'm not even sure we had to know any of that.
Well, if they had done the mental link thing, he's already had a mental link with other aliens. And how cool would it have been just have that little flash and just show? This would be like, as a creator of a world, as someone designing this sci-fi world, how cool would it be to, like, in those just flashes, instead of telling us all that, show a bunch of cool-looking fucking aliens working together, like, trying to learn equipment. You know, like, you would get to do some really neat design work there. You could do some things that would really inspire the senses. But instead, we just get the Pokeball talking at us.
Yeah, and it would make you so much more curious about, like, oh my god, I got to see the next movie because I got to see what's going on with these other aliens now, because apparently the humans are going to go help these aliens to kick those aliens' ass. Like, it would be way more interesting to me if I've already kind of seen them, seen their technology, seen what they're about, what they're working towards, as opposed to just being told. You know what I mean?
Think about Star Wars fandom. It does the exact same thing. Like, there's Wikipedia entries for just random aliens walking in the background, versus, like, they don't have to come on and say, oh yeah, that's a Thoraxian. Do you know Thoraxians are really large and they have 8 heads and they can only live underwater and they're on the run from this. Instead, we just see a Thoraxian walk by in the background and go, blah, blah, blah. And people are fascinated by that because they want to know more. You know, it's like a strip tease. Do a little bit instead of just like flashing cool badge.
You don't
I mean, interesting fact about the Thoraxians.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, leave some of the mystery in. You don't have to tell us the whole fucking history. Like, it would be cool if they showed up and we just knew just a little bit of the story, and they show up and, you know, become a factor in this 3-way galactic battle. Yeah. That exposition was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this.
I know. Anyway, I've been pretty negative, but I still think it's worth taking a look at. I mean, even if you've listened to the spoiler section and you've had the movie totally ruined for you, if you did like the first film, I think there are some things in here to enjoy. The thing is, you just can't expect it to be as good as the first film because it's not going to be. And I mean, the first film wasn't exactly that great either. But damn if I didn't see it in the theater 7 times when I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. Back then, I was like, oh, yeah, America, fuck yeah, Independence Day.
I hope there's other 12-year-olds that are going to see it a few times in the theater.
And have that experience.
You know, it's good for movies, even though I didn't like it, Will didn't like it. I hope somebody latches onto it, and we get they'll probably get another shot at it and make it better. With Chinese funding, everything is possible.
Oh, yeah.
Although the Chinese don't like gay movies, so I don't know.
There you go. That explains your half measures right there.
Right.
Yeah, they killed off one of the gay characters, so all that's left is kind of like the neutered, crazy scientist. So
the Chinese
it's fine.
So the Chinese guys can go, yes. They can
oh, goodness. All right. Well, guys, let's move on to some plugs as we look to wrap up here. Jim, what have you got this week?
I got something really quick for those fans of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and this is going to be a plug that only people listening live to the show are going to be able to appreciate, I'm afraid. Tomorrow night, which is Tuesday, June 28th, there's a simulcast Fathom event of Riff Tracks Live MST3K reunion show. I'm not a huge MST3K fan, but I have friends that are, and I guess they're bringing back the whole gang, and they're going to have a big comedy show. I don't think they're going to focus on one specific movie. They'll probably show clips. They'll probably do, comedy gags and sections. But I know MST3K fans are really excited for this. I'm going to be there to see what all the hubbub's about and maybe report on it a little bit next week. So, yeah, if you're listening to the show now and you didn't know about this, go out and try to get your tickets now. I think it's a one-time deal. I don't know if they're going to have a re-airing of it, but Riff Tracks Live, MST3K reunion.
There you go. And if you are in Tucson, our Movie Bear group is actually going to see it as a group. So feel free to
join us.
Find us, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome. For me this week, I've got kind of a silly plug. Just something I ran across on the internet today. In fact, I posted one of the videos on the Movie Bears podcast wall. There's this new site called Better with Titanic. And I don't know if you guys have seen this.
I've not.
But it's these different epic scenes from different movies. Like there's one of Harry Potter fighting the Dementors. There's one of Lord of the Rings with Gandalf leading this giant army, down into an orc battle. And the whole point of it is that in these super serious moments, all of a sudden the upswell climax of Celine Dion's "My Heart Will Go On" plays instead of the normal music in the scene. And it's just the funniest fucking thing. It's pretty hilarious. Jim, did you check that out at all today?
I haven't had a chance to yet. And maybe it's because I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but I am a Titanic fan, so maybe I'll watch it.
There you go.
I saw it, and actually afterwards it inspired me to I haven't watched the actual music video, the original Celine Dion Titanic music video since it was the only song that played for a year in like what 97. So I actually went back and rewatched that just so I could be like, oh yeah, I remember how big this was. Thanks for sharing that, Brad. It was a fun little aside this evening.
I'm glad I could provide some fun. But Will, what have you got?
I had a chance. Like, it's been a really good movie week for me. I have several things to plug, but I'm going to hold off on them for a future show. So I'm just going to do one, and it is The Shallows. The Shallows came out this last week, and it's basically a woman played by what's her name, Blake Lively, who is stuck like 200 yards away from the shore. So like it's right there, she can see it, but there's a bloodthirsty shark in the water around her. And not a perfect movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it might be my favorite shark movie since Jaws. Like, I mean, it is at parts like really intense, and I think she does a really solid job of carrying a lot of weight, mostly by herself. I liked it, and I think if you also like shark movies, I think we're coming up on a Shark Week.
Right. Must be.
I feel like this is a good time to see it. Yeah, you should go check it out. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, we saw it over the weekend too, and it's kind of
probably
like
should have reviewed that one.
Yeah.
We still could. It's kind of like if Wild and Jaws had a baby, and I'm okay with that. Like,
I'm very down for that.
I saw a threesome: Wild, Jaws, and The Revenant all together.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
She's like crawling over the rocks, grunting, and I'm like, we just need some snow and like dirt in her hair, and it's The Revenant.
And these are all movies that I liked merged together into a movie that this movie wasn't as good as The Revenant or Jaws or Wild for me, but it was good, and it's worth.
Yeah, it was entertaining. Yeah.
Hey, Will. It's totally a gem fusion of things you like.
It is. It's a total gem of a movie.
All right. Well, that is that for this week's Movie Bears podcast. That's right. We're dusting our hands off. We're done. We're out of here. Thank you so much to those of you who joined us live. It was great hanging out with you guys. Saw y'all watching in the background. So always good to have you. And those of you who are listening on digital tape delay, thanks for listening. Good to have you with us as well, even if it's a few days after we recorded it. Jim's got some cuteness.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Did she just... Our kitty Poe was just up there with Jim.
I love it when pets pop into the podcast. I should bring mine in sometime.
Yeah, once in a while.
I put them in the other room during podcasts, but maybe my little dog Huck will join us some week.
There you go. We'll have pet show and tell.
Product pet placement.
And maybe for Secret Life of Pets, guys.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. That's lock it in. Our pets are going to be shoved in front of cameras and squirming out of our hands during that episode.
But we're gonna have to do voices for them. You understand that, right? Like, yeah. You
may even have to play characters from the movie.
My dogs already have voices because I'm dumb, so I'm ready.
Sounds like a plan. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to catch up on our back catalog, like 188 episodes that have come before this one, which blows my mind, feel free to find us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or go to our website, moviebearspodcast.com. You can find that content there. Find us on Twitter at MB Podcast, or interact with us on Facebook at Movie Bears Podcast. Facebook is doing that whole like at thing now. Apparently they're trying to be Twitter, whatever, Mr. Zuckerberg. But yeah, that's the thing now. So you know what? It works to our advantage. Come find us. And yeah, we'll see you all next time. Take it easy. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.